So how's it going, everyone? T Glizzy here, and in this Destiny 2 video we're going to be taking a look at the best fragments to pair when using the Agers Scepter. So the Agers Scepter is the new exotic stasis trace rifle, and this exotic is absolutely insane. It is a new exotic for the Season of the Lost, and you can pair this exotic up with your stasis subclass to get some insane results out of this exotic. When you pair up your fragments from your stasis subclass with this exotic, the results you get are just one of the best weapons that we've ever got in Destiny 2, and I feel myself saying that a lot lately, that we're getting the best things introduced to Destiny 2, and that is an actual fact. I mean, Bungie's doing a marvelous job with bringing brand new exotics, and they're changing up the entire sandbox, and I love the direction that we're heading in. But yeah, we're going to be taking a look at this exotic in this Destiny 2 video, so if you guys do going to enjoy, let me know by smashing that thumbs up button, and without further ado, let's dive straight into it. So before we take a look at our stasis fragments, let's take a look at the Agers Scepter and the exotic perks that this weapon comes with. So the first exotic perk is Riga's Refrain, and this reads stasis final blows transfer ammo to this weapon's magazine from reserves. And then it comes with the exotic perk Agers Call, and this reads final blows with this weapon generate a slowing burst around the defeated target. So in my opinion, it's not a slowing burst, it's an actual freezing effect that comes from defeating targets. So in my testing, whenever I defeat a target, any target around that target will be frozen. Inside of Crucible, you do get some different results. Whenever you do defeat a target, anybody around that defeated target will get some slowing effect applied to them. But inside of PvE, whenever you defeat a target, any target around that target will be completely frozen. So now moving into the subclass and taking a look at our fragments. Before we take a look at our fragments, I just want to mention something about the aspects. So you want to make sure that you're using an aspect that's going to allow you to create shards. So for the Warlock class, you want to make sure that you're using the Glacial Harvest aspect. This aspect reads freezing targets creates stasis shards around the frozen targets. Higher tier combatants create more shards. So this is going to allow your exotic weapons to create you shards, and you can do different things with the shards when you add on different fragments. So we're going to get more into this when we start looking at our fragments, but make sure that you are using an aspect that allows you to create shards. So when it comes to our stasis fragments, there's only 9 stasis fragments that Agers Scepter really benefits from. The other handful of fragments don't do too much for the exotic, but these 9 stasis fragments take this exotic to an entirely different level. So the first fragment we have here is Whisper of Hedrons, and this one reads dramatically increases weapon stability, weapon aim assist, mobility, resilience, and recovery after freezing a target. Our next stasis fragment is Whisper of Fissures, and this one reads increases the damage and size of the burst of stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. So next we have Whisper of Refraction, and this stasis fragment reads defeating slowed or frozen targets grants class ability energy. Then next we have Whisper of Durance, and this one reads slow from your abilities last longer. For those abilities that linger, the duration will also increase. And then we have Whisper of Bonds, and then this one reads defeating frozen targets grants you super energy. So now moving on to our next stasis fragment, we have Whisper of Conduction, and then this one reads nearby stasis shards track to your position. And then we have Whisper of Rending, and then this one reads kinetic weapons do increased damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets. So you can obviously see why we would be benefiting from this stasis fragment. Whenever we freeze a target, that means we'll be getting a 10% increase to our damage by just simply freezing the target. So this is almost basically like having a passive 10% damage increase at all times. Our next stasis fragment is Whisper of Hunger, and this one reads increases the melee energy gain from picking up stasis shards. And then for our final stasis fragment, we have Whisper of Rhyme, and then this one reads collecting a stasis shard grants a small amount of overshield which falls off after 10 seconds. Collecting additional shards adds to the overshield and refreshes the timer. So now that you know the best fragments to use when using the Agers Scepter, I went ahead and put together some fragment setups. These fragment setups are just some basic fragment setups. You can create your own, and I would love to know what you create down in the comment section below. So for our first setup here, we have a setup that's going to allow us to keep our abilities up at all times. So we're going to be using the fragment Whisper of Conduction, Whisper of Rhyme, Whisper of Hedrons, and then Whisper of Hunger. So this is going to allow us to have all of our abilities up at all times, and then we'll be getting a easy stat boost every time we land a final blow. So anytime we land a final blow, we're going to be getting a stat boost to our mobility stat, our resilience stat, and our recovery stat all at once by just landing final blows. So our recovery stat on our Warlock actually gives us class ability energy. So this means when we get a stat boost, we are going to be getting more energy back for our class ability faster. So Whisper of Hedrons is a fantastic fragment, but when you add it to a fragment setup, it just completely excels the setup. So when you use this first setup, you should always have your abilities up at all times as long as there are ads around. So for our next fragment setup, I feel like this is the best fragment setup you can get with the Agers Scepter. This fragment setup here completely takes full advantage of the exotic weapon, and it's almost the final form of this exotic weapon. If this exotic weapon had its catalyst, then this would probably be its final form. So we're going to be using the Whisper of Fissures fragment, and then we're going to be using the Whispers of Rending, and then we're going to be using Whisper of Hedrons, and then the final fragment is Whisper of Durance. So these 4 fragments together all take advantage of the Agers Scepter. Whenever you freeze a target, you're going to be getting benefits. Your slow effect's going to be lasting longer. Altogether, I mean, this is all around one of the best setups when using the Agers Scepter. You can clear out groups of ads so quickly, it's just absolutely insane. It almost feels like you're using a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher when you're going into groups and clearing them out this fast. I mean, it's just so insane how fast you can clear out ads, and this is easily hands down one of the best ad clearing weapons we've got in a very long time. So my overall thoughts on the Agers Scepter are very positive. After playing around with this weapon in multiple activities, doing raids, doing Crucible, I mean, I really enjoy using this weapon. I think I found one of my favorite new weapons. This thing is just so fun to use when it comes to clearing out ads. When it comes to doing Grandmasters in very high level content like Master Votive Glass, I don't see myself using this exotic because I do have primary weapons with headstone on it, and that is one disadvantage about this exotic, is it is an exotic, so I can just use something like a legendary with headstone and still take advantage of a lot of those stasis abilities and stasis fragments. So that is just one downside that I see to this exotic, is it's an exotic, and that's a downside to almost every exotic in the game. So it's not just a single downside to this exotic alone. But this exotic versus ads is just absolutely fantastic. Against bosses, it doesn't have the best DPS or total damage, but we've yet to see how this weapon will act once we have the catalyst unlocked. But against Guardians, I don't think this weapon's in a good spot at all. When it comes to Crucible, it's very hard to get multiple targets frozen, and it doesn't have that high of a TTK, so you will be outgunned all the time when using this trace rifle. But it is something that's very fun to use if you are just trying to play some casual Crucible. So this weapon is also super flexible at creating builds. You can make tons of builds with this exotic, and we have a few builds lined up that we're going to be uploading over the next few days, so keep an eye out for those videos. Those are going to be some epic builds. Also, we have a build special coming up where we're going to be creating builds for every single class using this exotic once the catalyst is released. So the catalyst is going to be released next Tuesday, so this means that we can start creating that special build video for you guys starting next week. So keep an eye out for that video. It's going to feature 3 epic builds for the Agers Scepter, and you won't want to miss that video. They're going to be completely busted builds, and you're going to want to use those builds for whatever content you're playing. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for me in this Destiny 2 video. If you guys did enjoy, please be sure to let me know by smashing that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe for more. And I've been your boy T Glizzy. You guys have been my awesome viewers, and I'll see you guys in another.